Now, this is how you walk majestically when you are clothed in a dress like this. What's up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ayomide, and on this channel I post sewing tutorials and pattern drafting tutorials. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing how I made this maxi dress that is fully beaded. I loved the dress so much I had to make one for myself for somebody who is not a lover of maxi dresses. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please click on the subscribe button below and let us jump straight into this tutorial. To begin this tutorial, this is the fabric of choice I'm going to be working on. It is an Ankara fabric, cotton Ankara, and it is 6 yards in total. I also have a plain fabric here which I'm going to be using for the center front and the hem of the sleeve of this dress. You can use any fabric of your choice. Now let's move on to cutting this dress. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two, and the length I folded would be enough for my sleeve, so you would want to consider that. I'm going over to draw a line which will be the starting point where I'm going to be placing all of my measurements from. The measurements I'm going to be placing is going to be the neck width. By the way, this right here is the back that I am cutting, so I'm going to be using 2.5 inches for the neck width, and I'm marking half of the shoulder measurement, after which I'm going to be marking the length of the sleeve I'm working on plus half an inch seam allowance. So I'm going over to mark about 12.5 inches right over there. Once that was done, I went ahead to mark 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and I connected that measurement to my neck points. Once I was done with that, the next thing I did was to mark my vertical measurement. I'm marking my shoulder to bust, which is 10 inches, my shoulder to waist, which is 18 inches. Then I went ahead to rule a line across on that line. After that, I went ahead to mark my shoulder to hip measurement, which is 25 inches. Because this dress is going to be a free dress, I'm going to be using the widest circumference of the body to take the measurement, and in this case it is the hip. A quarter of the hip measurement I'm working with is about 11.5 inches, and I added an extra 3 inches plus 1 inch side seam allowance. You can add as much as 4 inches. It depends on how big you want this to be, and I'm placing that same measurement on the waistline and also on the bust line. In essence, I used the widest measurement to cut out this dress, so I didn't use the bust measurement. I did not use the waist measurement. So I'm just going over to rule a straight line from the waist, from the bust all the way to the length. After that is all done, it is now time to work on the sleeve. From the length of the sleeve, I will just rule a straight line down to the bust line, come inward by 1 inch just to have a slant over there. I'll connect that back to the shoulder line, and that would serve as my sleeve opening. So I'm just going over to check the measurements I have there, if it is enough. So I have about 9.5 inches there, which is perfectly okay. I don't want a fitted sleeve, neither do I want a sleeve that is too big. What I'll do next is to draw in my neckline. Since I am cutting the back, I am going for half an inch as the depth of the neckline I'm using for the back. You don't want to go too deep because it will make cutting, or rather it will make fixing your plain fabric difficult. I'm done cutting, and here is what it looks like. I'm going to be placing this on my fabric again to cut out the front, after which I would make an alteration to the center front. I've placed my back on another fabric, on my Ankara fabric, and I'm just going over to pin it, after which I'll cut this out. I'm done, and here is what it looks like. I'm going to be placing one of the fabric aside and I would work on the other one. This one would be for the front. To begin with the alterations I'm going to be working on for the front, I'm going to be marking 2 inches inward from the center front. Remember, this is on fold, so what this means is that I marked 4 inches in essence, after which I will mark my neck depth, and I'm going for a neck depth of about 7.5 inches. I'll draw in a V neckline this way. Then I'm going to be connecting those 2 inches into a straight line. So you see I drew it all the way to the M. Then I'll connect from my neckline all the way down. Now the V neckline I drew was just to serve as a guide for me when I want to cut. Once that is done, I'll just cut this out. This is what my fabric looks like after cutting out. You can see the shape of the V right at the top, and here's what it looks like. Now the desired length of my dress is 60 inches. My Ankara is about 45, so I'm going to be adding an extra length of fabric just to make up for what is left. I have done that, and here is what it looks like. My dress is now to my desired length. Because this Ankara has a defined pattern, it is very easy for me to join without you really noticing that I joined. So if you look at it, you wouldn't even notice that I joined to the length of this dress. Now it is time to sew. To begin sewing, I will start by placing right sides of the front and the back against each other. After then, I will proceed to just sew along the shoulder only. So just sew along your shoulder only for now. This is what my Ankara fabric looks like after joining it along your shoulder only. Now it is time to determine the length of the plain fabric I'm going to be attaching. This plain fabric would run from the center back all the way down to the front. So I'm placing my measurements at the midpoint of the back, which is the center back, measuring round that all the way to the hem of this dress. So you'd measure right from your center back all across to the front down to the hem of the dress, and I have about 64 inches. I'm going to be cutting a fabric length of about 69-70 inches just to be on the safe side. So it will be about 70 inches in length and 5 inches wide. Here is the fabric, and I've gone ahead to cut it out already. The length is about 69-70 inches thereabouts. What I need is 64 inches anyways, but there's no problem if it is longer than what I want. And the width is about 5 inches. Now placing this on fold, I'm going to be having 2.5 inches. Remember, we took out 2 inches from the center front, and half an inch would be used to join these to the Ankara fabric. You will need to cut out 2 strips of fabric of the same length and the same width. So I have 2 strips of fabric right here with me. Now to join these 2 strips of fabric together, I'll just place one end, placing right sides against each other. I'll join it together to make one continuous long strip of fabric. After joining that together, I decided to determine my neck depth. Now remember my neck depth initially was about 7.5 inches. Now I'm going to be adding that 7.5 inches to whatever measurement I have from my center back. So measuring right from the center back, I'll place my tape right on the center back. I'll place it there and then measure all the way to where I want my neck depth to be. So I have about 3 inches from the center back and then 7.5 inches or 8 inches in the front. That should be about 10-11 inches. This is my fabric here that I have folded. This is the part where I have joined it together. I'll place my neck depth measurement, which I've marked. I'll place it right there. So I'm placing 11 inches actually, and I want to make sure that this measurement is in the middle. Half of 5 inches is 2.5 inches, so I have 11 inches right there. What I will do is to sew right in the middle all the way to where I want my slit to start from. You would also need to measure where you want your slit to start from. In order to make the sewing process very easy, you can iron your strip of fabric so that you can have a crease line that would serve as a guide for you while you're on the sewing machine and will ensure that your stitch is straight. After sewing that, I'm going to be turning this strip of fabric to the right side, and it's going to look something like this. This is where the head would pass through. And I have the remaining part of the fabric this way. This right here is the slit part, and this is the body of the fabric. Now to join this to my Ankara fabric, I have this part here where I join these two strips together. That seam would be matching to the center back. You want to ensure that that seam matches right to the center back. I would pin the other part of this plain fabric on my Ankara, and once I have pinned sufficient amount of fabric, I would then sew it down. I have joined my fabric, the plain fabric, to the Ankara as I illustrated, and I just wore this on my mannequin just so you can see it. I have not joined it together along the sides. That down there is the slit. So this is what it looks like so far. The next thing I will do now is to join it together along the sides. But before joining along the sides, I also want to have the plain fabric at the hem of the sleeve just to complement it. I have this plain fabric that I've cut out. It is also 5 inches wide. Folding it into two would give me about 2.5 inches. I will join that to the sleeve, and here is what it looks like. So what I'll do next is to place my fabric, just fold it over, making sure right side faces each other. Then I will join it together along the sleeves all the way to the side, and then finish it up by the hem. My dress is taking shape and form already. At this point, the dress is complete. You can decide to wear it, but I decided to add a little touch of elegance to this by stoning the dress. I didn't do this myself. I outsourced it to somebody, and here's what it looks like. Guys, when I picked up this dress from the lady who did the stoning, I was wowed. I was like, oh my god, this is absolutely gorgeous. You know, adding accessories to your clothes takes it from level 1 to level 10, because this is amazing, guys. This is really beautiful. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure you give it a huge thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, kindly click on the subscribe button below, turn on your notifications, and until my next video, guys, make sure you stay blessed and have a blessed day, week, and month ahead. God bless you all. Goodbye.